Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping veterans turn into rock stars every single day. You can learn more about what Operation Encore is doing by going over to their website at www.operationencore.org. That is www.operationencore.org. If you can give them a hand, just click that little donate button or follow all of their social medias and learn exactly what they are doing to change the lives of our veterans every single day. Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Today is an episode that I have been looking forward to for a while. This guest has got a lot on his resume that I can kind of vibe with, so I can't wait to get into it. We've got Gary DeFranco. He is a 44-year-old television executive producer living in Las Vegas, originally from the Cleveland, Ohio. We will not hold that against him. I've worked with the UFC for 20 years and produced almost 40 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, an amazing reality show. I loved it. Also produced television shows for the Playboy Channel, Discovery Channel, Spike, ESPN, and many more. Let's welcome Gary DeFranco.
How you doing? That was quite the intro. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. Yeah. You know, I rehearsed it all day.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So how you been?
Really good. I've seen the weather, you're just mentioning it. It's kind of crazy everywhere. I live in Vegas, which it's not as bad, but it's snowed here and it's rained a lot, which makes people go crazy. So I'm dealing with a little bit of it.
Yeah, I bet, man. I kind of like Vegas. I used to drive trucks, so going through there was kind of cool. I'd love to go. I'm not a Raiders fan, but I would love to go to the stadium one day.
Yeah, I got season tickets. If you come out here, I'll bring you to a game for sure.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background, man, where you grew up and how you kind of got to where you are?
First, I just saw the charity that you put up there, and my business partner and podcast partner is ex-military and a musician. So I'm going to share that with him and all the people that, rock with our podcast too. Music's a huge part of my life. Obviously, support the military. So that's a really cool, a lot of different charities around the military. I've not heard of one like that before. So I think that's awesome.
So believe it or not, I am actually a sponsor. How we kind of vibed is I started a radio station for veterans that are trying to get known, independent artists that were military or dependents of veterans. And that's kind of how I learned about Operation Encore, and we just kind of vibed,
Cool.
So, yeah. So
that's awesome.
You'll have to put me in contact. We'll get his stuff on the radio.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got a lot of people I know that would fall into that realm with you guys that could help out, or you could help them. So I'll definitely, link you guys together. But yeah, the quick version, I guess, of my story is, I grew up in Cleveland, and it's a working class place, and it's rough in areas, and went through some ups and downs, but ended up in Las Vegas for college, and ultimately ended up in the television business for the last 20 years. It's a roller coaster, it's reality TV or non-scripted TV is mostly what I do, which is it's a pretty cool thing because you get to live the lives of a lot of different people. I've been with the DEA in Detroit and Newark for 2 years, and I've been a street racer with Street Outlaws for 7 years, and I've been with UFC for 20 years, and I've seen all these different lives from how they live and kind of walk a mile in their shoes. So it's given me a good perspective on a lot of different people and a lot of stuff you wouldn't expect a lot of the times, and a lot of stuff you would expect, but it's been great. I work for really good companies. I've started my own company about 4 years ago, and still work with the other companies, do my own thing, work with a lot of talented people. And my main goal is kind of like shed light on good people that are passionate, trying to do something, and give them a little nudge in the right direction if I could help. So it's been good.
Absolutely, man. And you've hit my whole favorite list of shows, Outlaws, love it, Ultimate Fighter, love it, all that's my kind of reality show, even a little bit of Moonshiners, man. I like that stuff too. So
it's entertaining. It's I've been blessed. I've worked on some other shows and MTV shows and dating shows and some stuff that's not great, but for the most part, a lot of my friends have been stuck working on a lot of those type of shows. But I got on 2 shows that went for a long time, and a big car guy, I'm a big fight guy, so
Yeah,
it's stuff that I was really into, and part of the reason I was successful is because it was stuff I was passionate about and had knowledge of. But good people on both sides of the camera, and led to some really good shows that are still going.
that is awesome, man. So let's dig into it a little bit. Let's start with the Ultimate Fighter, man. So what, if in your career, what is an average day like when you guys are filming?
Shit, there is no average day, I guess. Well, there's in a TV show, most of them there's pre-production, there's production, and post-production. So in pre-production, we're setting everything up. Big responsibility I've had for a long time is casting the show, so finding the fighters that are going to be in the next season, which is probably my favorite part. We've had open calls of up to 800 fighters before, down to post-COVID. We do a lot of it remotely, but that's a process. The UFC gives us the weight classes that the show is going to be, or if there's any stipulation like USA versus the UK or anything like that. And then I go to town and I try to speak with every manager, coach, agent, fighter I know, and everybody will recommend the people that they like, or we'll have a big open call, and then we bring them through. And me, along with the matchmakers of the UFC, will kind of weed it all the way down to people that fit the criteria and that we think would be good for the show. And then we set the stage, and then, we don't really influence much once the stage is set. We don't tell them what to do, don't tell them what to say, don't tell them who to fight, anything like that. Obviously they got to be at this place at this time and they have to live in this place, but, we don't put words in their mouth or try to influence anything. We just let the game play out. So, that part makes it interesting because you don't know what's going to happen every day. It's always something though. Yeah.
Man, yeah, I could imagine, and especially in a sport like that, I'm sure you guys get surprised quite a bit with some of the stuff that's being said. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that don't make it to the show.
Yeah, there is a lot. I mean, we shoot, on average 6 weeks for an episode or for a season. Episodes are an hour long, so we're only, shooting, if there's 12 episodes, hour long, 24 hours. We shoot for 6 weeks. So it's got to kind of pick and choose the pieces that we feel will tell the best story of whoever that's fighting that week, or the main characters at the time. And the thing I love the most is, besides the casting part, is doing all the interviews. Whenever you see them talking to the camera, it's usually me or one of the other producers behind that are asking the questions or listening, and are giving them the topics we need to cover, to fill in the episodes, and whatever scenes we're going to use, they get to talk about those scenes. Or it's mainly just to get their experience and what they're going through, and if they're scared or excited, or
Yeah,
so it's great.
and again, I'm sure you get all sorts of different responses too.
Yeah, sure
So
do.
so while the filming is going on and all the stuff's happening, I'm assuming the fighters can't call people. They can't, they're locked in and kind of, they don't want any of the story to get leaked out or anything like that, right?
Right.
So how does that become difficult? Do you see people that kind of get halfway through it and have never been isolated like this and start having hard times with it?
Yeah, you'll have a lot of different types of people. So you'll have some of the older people that had a wife and kids at home. Obviously, they're missing them, and it's really tough. You'll have some young kids that still are at their mom's house and never lived anywhere else, and don't know how to do laundry or cook for themselves, or and then everything in between. So, and then you have get in a room with a snorer, and then you can't sleep for weeks, or end up having to fight your roommate, or people are dirty and you're the clean guy, or there's a lot of personalities. And then there's people that get in there and play games. They want to get under the skin of the potential opponents and throw them off their game. Or some people are annoying, but it's always like some similarities, but always completely different. You just never know.
Yeah. So while the fighting's going on, are you kind of just sitting back and enjoying it, or since there's no interviews at that point, your camera crew's now taking over, and they're getting all the film. So you kind of get a little bit of enjoyment time. Man, that'd be a blast to be, because there's no crowd or anything there during the show.
No.
So
Yeah, the fights, I need to watch a lot, but also, there's next guy's warming up, or guy that just fought that's got to get transported to the hospital, or that's got to do an interview, or, you have athletic commissions there, and you have to make sure that they're where they need to be and they have everything they need. So there's a lot of moving parts. I have a really good team that handles most of that, but, so I do get to observe, but I've seen crazy fights, 5 feet away for the last 20 years. And if there's no sound, it's weird. It's really different. And now you've seen that on TV a lot with the Apex that they've used since COVID. But before that, I mean, a shin bone to the side of the head sounds way different than you would think in a really quiet room. Yeah. And, somebody gets knocked out. Everyone goes quiet, and all you could hear is their like labored breathing, and like, it's scary. It's rough. When there's at the end, sometimes teammates have to fight each other. So usually there's no cheering. So beginning, there's at least 8 guys on each side screaming for their guy. But when it's friends or teammates, it's very quiet. So
wow. Yeah.
It's another mental hurdle for the guys too. It's hard to get pumped up to like fight at somebody that's your friend in the gym you train at every day in silence and 2:30 on a Tuesday. It's like, so that's a whole, if you get past that, and with all the other hurdles, like it sets you up mentally, at least for a career in the UFC. That's a lot to deal with for sure.
Yeah. And then a whole new level of stress comes, because now it's really a business. Now it's real, you know, and I think it's just as tough to stay there once you are there too.
It is. Yeah. I mean, everyone's gunning for that spot, and, you have to, every fighter's injured when they fight something to extreme. So it's like, when do you pull out? When don't you? If you're sick, if, you twisted your ankle, but it's not broken, but, your mobility's shot, and cutting the weight, taking last minute fights, and, you're a little heavy and it's the biggest opportunity of your life, but do you squander it? But are you not ready? Like, there's so much to think about. And, it's a fight. You don't play fighting. It's not a basketball game or tennis match. If you go in there a little off of your game, you're going to get hurt. So,
yeah. And cutting weight is no joke. I mean, we're not talking about 10, 15 pounds. We're talking people that are cutting 20, 30 pounds, and then putting it all back on by the time the fight starts. So,
yeah, that's the worst part of all of it. I think there's got to be ways to improve it. People always try to get an advantage when they can, but at the end of the day, if I cut 20 pounds, the guy's probably going to cut 20 pounds that I'm fighting, and we're going to, for 155ers, we're going to be 175 both when we fight each other anyway. So like, why go through it? It's very close. I bet most guys cut around the same amount. So,
yep. And I've even heard Joe Rogan on his show say that same thing, that they should really strict down on how much weight you can cut, and start looking at body fat and other ways to prevent it. Because it's definitely not healthy. And
it's like, the brain, from what I understand, is the last thing to hydrate. So if you don't get all the way hydrated, then that fluid around your brain is the last thing to go. And that's your protection. That's rough. That thing's rattling around in there. And that's why boxers die. Most MMA guys don't, but the boxers tend, if they do pass away, it's the swelling of the brain, because it's just constant, 12 rounds of it's getting scrambled. So, it's rough.
I boxed when I was young in the Army, and man, your next day, you don't even think about it, but you wake up with whiplash and everything else just because of the pounding that your head takes.
Yeah, for sure. That people don't realize, like, the neck part about it, and just, the headgear and the big glove, it makes it so you don't get knocked out quickly. But it's also like one of those things where, a lot more shots, MMA, you tend to get dropped. Someone follows up, the ground and pound looks brutal, but it's over. Boxing will let you stand up, give you 8 seconds, just enough to like get your wits about you, and then boom, you're taking more headshots. So
it is way not healthier. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. The bare knuckle, I do a lot of bare knuckle stuff now. Doing bare knuckle MMA with Jorge Masvidal's organization, Game Bread. And it's brutal for sure, but it's also like a lot, it's less brutal than bare knuckle boxing because there's still
Oh,
takedowns and submissions and wrestling. And bare knuckle boxing is just knuckles to the face until somebody can't stand up anymore.
yeah.
It's rough.
I bet you those guys have a tough time getting sanctioned and licensed in some states.
Yeah. Yeah. Nevada doesn't allow bare knuckle yet, and some others don't. I feel like if it's regulated, it's not a problem. It looks worse. A lot of the damage is superficial. There's a lot of blood because the knuckles will just cut the skin, but those fights actually get stopped quicker. If you're not bleeding, you won't get stopped, and it's more head trauma and stuff. But it's hard to watch sometimes. And, I've been covered in these guys' blood before more than once,
Wow.
your cage side and they get good shot and they've already cut and it flies all over. And like, I think we test them like a lot. Like,
Yeah, I could imagine that. And I will admit too, because I grew up as a boxing fan, so I grew up always and obviously there wasn't no UFC until my later years, but um, I will say also that the referees are quicker to stop for the health of the fighters on the UFC side
yeah.
than they are with boxing.
Yeah,
I've seen people get laid up against the ropes and just take a pounding before somebody finally steps in and breaks it.
Yeah, I think they get criticized sometimes for stopping the fight too soon, and sometimes they shouldn't have stopped it that soon. But I'd rather they err on that and give these guys another shot at it than let them just take too much of a beating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, the people criticizing have probably never done it, and
For sure.
they definitely don't understand what the life expectancy in the career of a fighter is. I mean, on average, what, low 30s before they're just finally hanging it up.
Yeah, it depends
So,
on the sport and when they got started, how many miles are on the car, I guess you could say. But mid 30s is kind of like when it's normally should be the time to hang it up, and some guys will stay longer. But
right.
it's yeah.
You don't want to ruin somebody's. I mean, they still got a lot of years ahead of them after that. There's more to it after the career. So
Yeah.
I'm all for stopping it early. When somebody looks like they're in trouble. So
Yeah, fighters fight and they're not going to stop. So they need the ref, their manager, their corner guys. Like, they need people around them that's like, hey, it's time to stop. They'll fight injured. They'll fight till they're 50.
Yep.
No fighters that I know usually are the ones like, I think it's about time to hang it up, or, they don't throw in their own towel. Somebody's got to save them because they are bred to fight and they're different than us. They're all go. So
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. So Street Outlaws, man, that is like the whole other side of the spectrum, man. How does that go?
Well, Pilgrim Media Group does both shows along with a lot of other shows. So after doing Ultimate Fighter for a long time, they had an opening on Street Outlaws, and it was lining up where they were filming that at a different time than Ultimate Fighter. So I got the good opportunity to go there. I was already a fan of the show, and I was bugging them like a bunch about it, but it was not lining up right at the first couple of seasons. And they sent me out there, and my first assignment was the producer that was with Farm Truck and Asian, who are two of the coolest dudes I know in this world. And man, that's a job that did not feel like a job, especially when he was working with those guys. Like, I'd wake up, get my buddies there, the camera crew, would go over to their firehouse and like just do cool shit all day and then go home. Like, that's not bad. The races are tough. Overnight, lots of people, lots of moving parts. When people crash, it's really, really bad. I see on the internet people say like the producers, or they loved the crashes. We do not like that at all under any circumstances. Like, yes, they show it and they'll hype it up if it happens to get more people to watch, which is what it is. But these are our friends. We interview these guys before they get in the car, and we go to their houses and eat dinner with their families. Like, we don't want these guys fucking crashing. I've gotten some pretty good arguments with people that say shit like that before. Cause I'm like, they crashed into a car, that is where my camera guy is at, going 150 miles an hour. They have crash cars and protection. I'm like, we're not aiming them at our crew and like hoping they crash. It's like, we never want that. Not one person that works there would not take no crashes ever over, and we'd say no crashes. We can make commercials and shit out of whatever. Like,
Yep.
it's scary. You see a guy with every day, and all of a sudden their car's on fire, upside down, rolling. Like, that's not cool. So that's the worst part about it for sure.
Yeah.
And it's getting more dangerous. These guys are getting better. They're getting more money. Their cars are going faster. They're able to tweak them more for the road to get more speed. They're able to afford better parts and, more of them. And like, it's rough to see that part, but the passion that these guys have and to see the black guys and the white guys and the Mexican guys and the liberals and the conservatives and the young and the old and everybody's out there, and you don't hear no Trump Biden shit. You don't hear any of that stuff out there, hardly ever. You might have the most gangster black dude and like an old hillbilly and a doctor and a Mexican dude from Arizona, and like they're all talking about fucking LS motors and shit.
Yep.
They're not, none of that stuff like makes it to the track normally. And it just shows like people just sat down at a beer or like hung out a little bit and didn't just Facebook and their echo chambers of what they already believe. Like, I've seen a lot more unity at places you wouldn't really expect it, like fights or street races. It's like the underbelly of society. But these guys might be gambling and driving too fast, but like they're cool and they don't, not very few fights. And they help each other out. Something blows up, the guy that they're about to race might give them the part they need to get back out there and go against them. It's like, it's a good thing to see for sure.
Yeah, it's like that in most of the racing world. I was dabbling around with some dirt track racing, and it's tough to get in. Once you're in, then it's different. But until you've kind of proved yourself and that you are legitimately going to stay and be there and put the work in, they give you a hard time. But after that, you make some friends and you don't go out there and try to be a dick. The rewards will come back when you need them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've filmed a few dirt track things over the years. One was a dirt track school bus race with Farm Truck and Asian. That was insane. Some lemon races too. These guys buy beaters of a couple $100 and break out the windows and weld the door shut and like go to town.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's fun stuff for sure.
And I don't know where you're talking about Farm Truck and Asian, man. I have no clue where they come up with some of these things that they kind of hop up, like that one episode where they were doing the little rascal races where man, that thing was going like 40 miles per hour.
Yeah. They're super creative dudes. And then we have like a lot of creative people like around us, and we'll sit there after work and have a beer or whatever. And like, what could we do? And they're like, let's, Mad Scientist has like 40 airbags. What could we do with that? And like, let's make a minefield. Like, yes, let's do that. Like, I got in a lot of trouble for the airbag minefield. But like, it's, it's like, it's cool to do that. We got those big orb balls that, it's like a big hamster thing. And we're like, all right, let's see who can get the farthest across the airbag minefield. Or they're like, let's make a cannon, see how far we could shoot a bowling ball. It's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, the guy from an aerospace company that they know comes up. I think I could get it about a mile. I'm like, fuck, wait, what? Like,
a mile?
Like, you're an actual scientist. We don't need actual scientists. Like, that's you're too good at this. Like, let's not do that.
Cheating at that point.
Yeah, like, but it's a good time. It's hard work and a lot of hours, and we're away from our families, and they are too, and tempers flare and get in arguments and shit. People get frustrated, especially towards the end of a long grind, but usually come back together and do something cool. And, people like the fans are, they keep you motivated. We meet these people all over that, tell us about a loved one that had passed, that it was their favorite show, or they bring their kid for the first time. You see fathers and sons bonding over these things. And, in the Memphis one, we had a lot of girls that raced, and we'd meet a lot of little girls that were like, I never thought I could race, like, till I saw Chelsea race, and like, this is so cool. I got somebody to look up to. So, same with the, female fighters. A lot of them are my really good friends, and, to see, people come up to them, little girls that are influenced by them, and not always just like the Kardashians.
Have you ever wondered how you can help out the show? Well, that is very simple. You can help us out by going to www.twodrunkdudesinAgunroom www.twodrunkdudesinagagunroom.com. That is www.twodrunkdudesinagagunroom.com. There's many ways you can help us by listening to the show, supporting the show, liking, sharing, and everything else that comes along with social media. But one of our biggest goals is to help build the nonprofit Heroes Voice Media Foundation. This is a foundation that has decided to start celebrating courage and amplifying heroes. Find your voice with Heroes Voice Media Foundation.
I'm back.
Welcome back. That's all right. I left a long silence so that way I can just edit it out.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there. Just like went off and then back on. Cool.
So let me ask you this, because you see it, all the time. The show dictates that they're still doing it illegal. The cops are out there, and I know most people know that that's not the case. But how do they come up with those scripts? Is it just stuff that they used to do, and so they just kind of go with it and they're familiar with it?
Like most of the time, I don't think they try to fudge it at all anymore. The earlier seasons, they would try to do it, make it seem a little more illegal. And when they did the testing, like we weren't supposed to do this, but we went with them anyways. And they would test very illegally, like at the beginning. I mean, I'd be diving in the back of a truck, a minivan as the cops were pulling up with my cameras. They're taking off, and that was exciting shit. But for the most part, if they did act like it was like an illegal race, it'd be like a scenario that they had been in before, and they just kind of reacted out a bit. The races were always legit, never determined a winner or a loser or who raced who, but sometimes they would not really like allude to the fact that there's fire and safety out there as well, kind of. But if these guys hate each other, they really hate each other. If they're talking shit, we might shorten a very long sentence down to something, a little more manageable for the the clip of whatever we're showing. But for the most part, we don't tell them who to be mad at or who to partner up with or any of that. Kind of let that fly. It takes care of itself. People think we manufacture a lot, but these guys are as competitive as anybody. Racers, fighters, like they don't want to lose. If we gave one of these guys a script that said he had to lose, they would tell us to fuck off, and they would not do it. So like, it's not wrestling. Like it's
So all the call outs and everything was all real too. So like other states that were coming in and trying to take it, that was all real stuff. Was the gambling all real too?
The gambling, as far as I know, was always real. Like they would gamble a lot of money. I mean, it's maybe they made a deal with the guy beforehand, or something. Maybe that's happened. But as far as like we were involved, it was all real. And they would tell us like, hey, we got these guys in Missouri that want to come out. Here's that leader of their little gang name, like reach out to them. And then we would do like the logistics of getting them there and stuff like that. But they would always pick their opponents and, or if, we came across somebody, we would suggest it and they'd be like, no, those guys suck. Or, like, I know that guy's an asshole. I don't want to, but for the most part, like they'd say, these are the guys we want to race. And I'll tell you, went to Wyoming during COVID and we filmed, I think, America's List or Fastest in America, one of those kind of spinoffs. And we were locked down in a Holiday Inn, 100 of us on the crew side. And then there's a campground and other places that the racers stayed. We were out there for a month or so, totally locked down. Like, there's no restaurants really or bars open in the town. And, we just had our crew and it was 90 dudes and 10 chicks probably. And like, it was chaos. So maybe like a couple days in, one of the camera guys like, I got an idea. And we would be out there all the time and they gamble and they have fun. And we're not allowed to gamble, not allowed to pick sides. We're very neutral. He's like, I'm going to get this Hot Wheels track and put in the back and like, have some races and see like how it goes. Cool. So he built this big Hot Wheels track in the back of the hotel. Before you know it, like I'm calling Mattel, asking to speak to their engineers. We're on eBay. We're like doing research. We got like graphite. We bought every Hot Wheels car in Wyoming. Like it's like became a serious thing. And like the girls are like, you guys are so immature, like whatever. And like cut to like week 2. They're like, come on. Like they're like, and I still owe a guy. I got to get a tattoo of a car on my ass from a bet I lost there. And but it was nuts, man. It was the most fun. But we were gambling every night and back there, and we all had our teams, and people put so much time and effort into it, and it was great. It was like a good way to pass the time because it's crew. We drink a lot, and you can't do that every day and for weeks. So it's like something to at least do while we're having drinks, and there's nowhere to go, nothing to do, and it turned out to be like some of the most fun I've ever had. We made little shows and videos and stuff. I'll send one to you, but and it went from like something to do for fun to like so fucking competitive. Like it was ridiculous. Like it was
see that.
Yeah, it was. But we're so used to it. Like we want to gamble. I live in Vegas. I'm from a very gambling family. We used to go to that horse track after church as a kid, and like it's like, oh, you like know who you think's gonna win, but it's a zero tolerance for that. We don't want anybody to think we're favoring somebody or anything like that. So we have to just watch. But once we got our chance, it was every night, hundreds of dollars or whatever anybody had to gamble and
on Hot Wheel tracks.
Yeah, and I was killing it till the very last race. Like sound guy broke out this ringer of a car and just took me out.
Man,
yeah, it was rough, but it was a lot of fun.
I bet, man.
Yeah, we make it happen. It's like not always the best conditions, but yeah, good people and get creative with it. So I
mean, it's the same way in the military and with deployments. If you have a good group of guys come off mission and everybody's sitting around, man, the jokes will start flying, and then we'll get bored and the dares will start coming out. And, it don't matter how old you are. Everybody's 16,
Yeah. I have a podcast, and the co-host, he was in the Army for a long time, or I'm the co-host, he's the host. And every time I tell him one of these stories, like tells me one about the military that's like the exact same, like a bunch of dudes with free time, just been through some traumatic shit or at least something super tiring. And, it's just all you got is your buddies with you. And, hopefully everyone's got a sense of humor. They need one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For us, it was, while we was in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was scorpions and camel spider fights. We'd put both of them in a box or something and watch the scorpion kill the usually that's what happened anyways. The scorpion would kill the camel spider, but
yeah, I want no part of that. Like those camel spiders are the scariest thing in the whole entire planet.
Yeah. When you're talking about a spider that's large enough to see it run across the road while you're driving, like it's a little raccoon or something.
Nah,
yeah, they are big, man.
Nah, we got some scorpions out here in Vegas, but if one of those camel spiders was in my house, I would just burn my house down and call the insurance company. Sorry. I'm a pretty tough guy sometimes, but you put that shit in my house and I'm a 14-year-old girl screaming and running as fast as I can.
Yeah, you'll need a gun, not a boot.
Yeah, I got a nice shotgun. Put some birdshot in that thing and just spray it till I hit that
thing. Yeah, absolutely, man.
I think that's the best way to do it. More than
so I know everybody would be upset if I didn't at least ask, man. How does it work when you're on the whole other side of the spectrum? So I know you did some stuff with the Playboy Channel, man. What is that like?
Well, I was just then moved to LA at the time, and I got a good friend who's a producer. He's a gay dude named Bob, and he calls me. He's like, I got this job, and I can't, like, in good conscience take it without offering it to you first. I'm like, what is it? Like, it's Playboy Channel job. It's like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, what do I got to do? He's like, you got to go to this mansion every day and interview playmates. I'm like, no, I don't want it. Like, no. Yeah, so that's how it started, and it was a reality show called the Playboy Shootout, and it was a group of photographers and a group of aspiring models, and they would do competitions, and like the winning photographer and model would get the centerfold at the end of the competition show. So it was in a $20 million mansion in Malibu. I drove up the coast every day to get there, and they treated us really well. Almost got fired the first day for nothing that had to do with me, and I was like, one of the high up executives decided he wanted to do all the interviews because he wanted to flirt with the chicks basically. So he ended up doing them all, and that was what they hired me for. So at the end of the day, they called me in, and I'm like, shit, like really? Like I was there helpful and like ready to go. And they're like, yeah, I forgot the guy's name. It was 2007. He's like, so-and-so did all the interviews. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, they're terrible and we have to redo them all. So I'm like, they're like, could you stay and we'll double your rate for today and we'll get you anything you want for a second meal and pick which camera guy you wanted to shoot them. And I was like, yeah, fine, all that. So I was like, I want Roscoe's chicken and waffles. And I'm like, they went and sent a PA to get it. And I sat there until 4 a.m. and did, made up for all the stuff that the guy didn't do. And it was a fun show, like creative wise stuff they came up with. And like, girls were good looking and they were mostly all cool. So, a good crew and very professional. And that was a fun show for sure.
I can imagine that the girls that are on that show are probably just as competitive as the guys fighting on Ultimate Fighter. I mean, you talk about pageants and modeling and stuff like that. That is a brutal industry, man.
Yeah, it is. I've worked on some pageants out here too. And, but the girls are more competitive than guys all the way around. I don't care if it's fighting, if it's for a potential mate or whatever the case may be. Like, they will go for the kill. And like those girls were very competitive, like there's no like lose and then like we're cool. Like, guys beat shit out of each other and have a beer and stuff. Girl beats the other girl, that is death to them forever.
Yep.
Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I can imagine that there's a lot of enemies out there from the show, like The Bachelor and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Because those girls, I mean, they'll literally like break up an interview between the two people and say, "Oh, my turn. Have a nice day," and just cut in.
Yeah.
Guys would be like, "No, that shit gonna turn into a fight. I'll wait."
Yeah, it's true. Like a guy will beat another guy up. A girl will try to make the other girl kill herself. Like, I'm going to ruin your life forever. Yep. Like, we're like, I'm going to punch you in the face for a while and you're going to punch me and then we'll probably be fine afterwards. But them, like, no, like your kids are going to feel this. Like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
it's different. But yeah, I've ran the gamut of shit. I followed the DEA around in Detroit and Newark for a year and a half.
What was that like? I mean,
that was insane.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it was like you got to see like both sides and how like we probably mostly as a society have everything that we think about that situation wrong and like how it really happens and stuff. It's like, like there's one guy that worked at GM for like 20 something years and he got injured and he got like forced retirement and one of his kids was really sick and this guy that he knew from the neighborhood was like, "Hey man, like you got $30,000 severance package. If you give that to me, like I'll flip it and like I'll give you 45 back." And like had all this circumstance. Guy never sold drugs in his life, and the fucking guy was an undercover agent that just set him up.
Wow.
Or an informant. He had got busted, and they had told him like, "You have to go get us a bigger fish, or you're going to jail forever." And it's like that guy just got pinched for that, like a lot of drugs, and all of a sudden you're looking at 10 years in prison. Like, yes, he did break the law, but you're thinking like that guy's a kingpin. Like he deserves it. He got caught with 2 kilos, whatever. But really, like a circumstance like that, there's some terrible people selling drugs for sure. Don't get me wrong, but like I think the good part about us being there was like the cops had to act right. They had cameras there, and sometimes one of them will probably lose their temper, and the case gets thrown out over something frivolous, or they both sides will say somebody did the other thing, and they didn't really beat up the guy. Now we have the camera there to say like, nah, there's a perfectly good arrest, and the other is like. So everybody had to act right when the cameras were there. Now they have body cameras. This was, 2008. So there wasn't cameras around, but both sides had to tell the truth when the cameras were there. So I think that was good. And got to just see like, talking to these guys. It's crazy. Like the shit that they had seen and been through and how the drugs are getting into the country and just the amount, there's a, 20 by 20 room I'm in, and we would go to their like evidence rooms, and this would be full. It'd have garbage bags full of ecstasy pills and bricks of cocaine that would build a house, and just the confiscation and just the amount of it, and it was eye opening. It was in Newark and in Detroit. Some rough spots, and we helped these guys a lot because they're really bad at being undercover. So we helped them with cameras and how to like rig their microphones so you couldn't see them. And, I'm like, look, man, like just because you put a dirty Detroit hat on does not mean you look like you belong in this neighborhood, dude. Like you're sticking out like a sore thumb.
Operation Encore is a 501c nonprofit that is helping veterans turn into rock stars every single day. You can learn more about what Operation Encore is doing by going over to their website at www.operationencore.org. That is www.operationencore.org. If you can give them a hand, just click that little donate button or follow all of their social medias and learn exactly what they are doing to change the lives of our veterans every single day.
For a year and a half.
What was that like? I mean,
that was insane.
Pretty cool.
It was like you got to see like both sides and how like we probably mostly as a society have everything that we think about that situation wrong and like how it really happens and stuff. It's like, like there's one guy that worked at GM for like 20 something years and he got injured and he had like forced retirement and one of his kids was really sick. And this guy that he knew from the neighborhood was like, hey man, like you got $30,000 severance package. If you give that to me, like I'll flip it and like, I'll give you 45 back. And like had all this circumstance. Guy never sold drugs in his life. And the fucking guy was an undercover agent that just set him up.
Wow.
Or an informant. He had got busted and they had told him like, you have to go get us a bigger fish or you're going to jail forever. And it's like that guy just got pinched for that, like a lot of drugs. And, all of a sudden you're looking at 10 years in prison. Like, yes, he did break the law, but you're thinking like that guy's a kingpin. Like he deserves it. He got caught with, 2 kilos, whatever. But really like a circumstance like that, there's some terrible people selling drugs for sure. Don't get me wrong. But like, I think the good part about us being there was like the cops had to act right. They had cameras there and, sometimes one of them will probably lose their temper and the case gets thrown out over something frivolous or they both sides, will say somebody did the other thing and they didn't really beat up the guy. Now we have the camera there to say like, nah, there's a perfectly good arrest. And the other is like, so everybody had to act right when the cameras were there. Now they have body cameras. This was, 2008. So there wasn't cameras around, but both sides had to tell the truth when the cameras were there. So I think that was good. And got to just see like, talking to these guys. It's crazy. Like the shit that they had seen and been through and how the drugs are getting into the country and just the amount, there's a, 20 by 20 room I'm in and we would go to their like evidence rooms and this would be full, it'd have garbage bags full of ecstasy pills and, bricks of cocaine that would build a house and just the confiscation and just the amount of it. And, it was eye opening, it was in Newark and in Detroit, some rough spots. And, we helped these guys a lot because they're really bad at being undercover. So we helped them with cameras and how to like rig their microphones so you couldn't see them. And, I'm like, look, man, like just because you put a dirty Detroit hat on does not mean you look like you belong in this neighborhood, dude. Like you're sticking out like a sore thumb. You got a goatee and the Detroit hat and a work truck. Like they all have the same outfit on. Like no one's going to be like, man, the guy recognized this because he saw the camera guy. I'm like, camera guy was 3 miles away, dude. You're terrible at this. Like, but they, I got more of an appreciation for some of what they do and like more, empathy for some of the people on the other side. And it was good to like kind of see both sides and, what they go through. And, there's assholes on both sides and great people on both sides. So,
I watched that show, Drug Inc. quite a bit,
Yeah.
And, I think that show also, you kind of get a taste, you get a little bit of the background of what brought people in. And like you said, some of them, they just do it because they love it and they're just dicks, but there's other people that did it because they were taking care of their family, their mom in an area where the jobs are tough. I mean, I get it. I'm not going to let my family starve. So, anybody that they would never do it has probably never seen an opportunity that required it,
Yeah, it's tough, like you're, in Missouri and I'm from Cleveland and, it's like the Midwest, they shipped all the jobs out long ago and the factories are closing more and more and more. And then, I don't want to get too political or whatever, but they pumped in all these Oxycontin and all these opiates and, made it so readily available and people were already down on their luck and depressed and highly addictive substance. They put crack in the black communities in the 80s and 90s and they put opiates in the white communities in the 2000s. Like somebody brought that shit here. It wasn't the trailer park guy. It wasn't the guy in the projects. They didn't fly to wherever they make it at and bring it in. Like somebody brought these drugs in and, they very quickly take over these communities and take the jobs out at the same time. And it's a recipe for disaster. It's rough situation.
I seen a situation while I was in the military. A guy that he ran over an IED, and his whole this bone right here was gone. I mean, there was nothing there, and it was replaced with some steel rods and a bunch of pins and stuff like that. And what did they give him? They gave him opiates, and he was healing, slowly getting back to the point where he could do push-ups because he had to still prove that he could stay in the military. And his wife came to us and said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know my husband is abusing the drugs. He is addicted." And it cost him, man. I was in the special ops world, and he lost his security clearance and sent back to the regular army. At least they didn't kick him out. They put him through rehab and a detox, but I mean, that dude went through some shit.
Yeah.
And the army did it to him. The army sent him over, got him blown up. Then the army gave him addictive ass pills, got him addicted, and then destroyed being in an amazing unit that he probably would have been E7 by the time it was all said and done.
It's rough, like that pain's excruciating, I'm sure. And like when the pain goes away, now you're stuck with the addiction. Like,
yep.
I don't care how strong someone is. If they're doing that shit for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and like now it's time to stop, like your body didn't need, it needs it. You're sick, you're hurting, and if you can't sleep, you can't eat, like then your mind starts playing tricks on you. And it's a rough go of it. And especially like, you said, like they sent him there, for whatever reason the war was happening or whatever side of the fence you are on that, like he thought he was going for the right reasons, I'm sure, and they thought they were sending him for the right reasons, and he got, unfortunately, what happened, like they got to take care of people like that.
I agree. And I've always said, I said it after I got out, the soldier goes over patriotic, but the year that he's there, he's fighting to go back home. It ain't about America. It might be when you first touch soil, but when the rounds start flying and the bullets start flying, it's about surviving and making it back home. And it becomes real quick. So when you get out, then you start seeing with different eyes and you realize we were just political pawns. That's really all we were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to say stuff like that because I didn't serve, but like I feel like that's the way that it looks to me is, and most people, my friends that have served say the exact same thing, like once they got in it, like they didn't see like, this guy's not going to come to Missouri and try to kill my family. He's like defending his own family. He might not even know why we're there, like fucking with them, or he might be a terrible terrorist, but either way, like we're over there for, I'm watching like them give the, air base back to the Taliban over there in Afghanistan, and an interview with a guy that's telling me that they called him back into country to go clean up the air base because the Taliban didn't think they did a good enough job cleaning it up before, they passed it back over to him. And I'm like, fuck that shit, man. Like, I don't care. Like, really? Like, we create the Taliban, we go to war with them, war for 20 years, and then, like, we give them back their shit after we fuck their whole country up, and then they're like, clean it up better, and then they send their guys back over there to do it. And, like, there's everything's wrong with that situation. Like, like, damn.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched the Sean Ryan show, but there was a episode on there that was eye-opening, man. Marine that he was at Abbey Gate when it blew up. He was a sniper, and there was so many things that you did not see from the press that he talked about. The fact that they had 3 positive IDs on the bomber before he blew the gate. The British agreed it was him. His battalion commander agreed it was the right guy, and the sniper had a positive ID and asked permission to kill him, and it was denied. So, I didn't know any of that stuff until he started coming open about it. And he's supposed to be up at the hearing in Congress, to talk about the failures of the leadership and stuff. But
and then it's like you wonder if it was a failure or like they let that happen for some other reason that we don't even know about. It seems like why wouldn't they have done that? It's kind of, you hear all these conspiracy theories and they're nuts when you hear them, especially years ago. But then when one becomes actually true and another, then you're like, shit, well, what else is not crazy conspiracy? What else is
Yeah, it is crazy, man. And, I was never a media fan while I was over there because it was so hard dealing with the press. You got to keep them alive and watch out for them. And, they want the story and they want to hear things, but yet your chain of command's telling you can't talk about this. Don't say this. Don't, and it just complicated so many things and took your mind off of what it really needed to be on.
Yeah.
But I think that was the turning point, man, was when we allowed the media to start filming war. That's not something that should be on TV,
It's like, and if it is, it should be on there accurately, not, like I've worked for Fox for quite a while, and, they'd have very, like on FX be the most liberal comedians, and then at Fox News and very right wing, or, somewhat right wing, depending on who you ask, but it's only like that because that's where they could get the most money. If tomorrow they could make more advertising dollars being liberal, they'd wing the other way quick as fuck, like they're owned by liberals, and it's like, you watch, like the stuff going on in Texas, and they're knocking down a fence, and then you're like, well, that's not a fence, it's barbed wire. And then the one side's like, it's just a little wire, and then but it's not just a little wire, but it's not a fence either. It's like, why don't you just tell us what actually the thing is, and like what the, why are they doing it? Just tell us the facts, let us decide. Don't say it's this or that, or, it's none of it's ever true completely. So it's like, you dig into what you already believe most of the time. And when it comes down to it, it's like usually in the middle but there's no common sense. There's no like, hey, like we should have some sort of barrier there. Yes, obviously we should, but this one's like maiming children, like maybe we should make it so that doesn't do that. And then we'll be, but it's like, no, take it all away, or do, kill them all, or what. So it's like, damn, man, like let's just, comment. It's like, guns, like I'm a liberal dude. I'm very anti-democrat, but I'm liberal on most things. I have guns,
I think most people are, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah. I think people should be taken care of and helped by our government. And I think healthcare should be affordable, and education, stuff like that. I also think like we should let people come to our country, but we should vet them and see who it is and see what their intentions are, and make it a little easier to become a citizen, but not make it impossible. And, I think a lot of shit makes sense, but it's like, I have very liberal friends that are like, what about Sweden and Australia? They have like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't start with 400 million guns like we have now. You can't just, no one's going to give them away. No one's going to give them up. We have them. They're there. The criminals will be the last people to give their guns up. So, you're liberal, you hate cops, you hate the military, you hate criminals. That's all the people that have guns. So you choose not to have one. Like, okay, well, when shit hits the fan, like you just might as well give all your shit away, and like,
and
then you have the other side that's like, we're gonna stand our ground and like all this, and there's gonna be a war, and the government. I'm like, the government is the military. Like, you're gonna go fight the military? Like, you're so pro-military today, but like you're fantasizing about this time in which they're gonna come try to take your guns and you're gonna get to shoot them. Like, you'll get smoked immediately. First off, like I don't care how much you play army in your backyard. The American military is the best ever, and they will. There's no chance. So it's like, let's calm down a little bit, have some reasonable discussions about this stuff, and like let's come to like, a reasonable discussion. Like I don't think people need 100-round drums and missile launchers and shit. And I think people should be able to have guns to protect their home and their family, and recreationally if they're a responsible adult and like they don't do any, it's like, why not have a little more checking like in certain areas, and then some. It's like, no, you never, that's my right. Like, yeah, but let's do it reasonably. Or like, take them all away. Like, that's not reasonable either. Like, let's just talk about it,
And you're speaking from the side that doesn't get talked about. That whole middle, whether you're right, left, or whatever, but the middle class people where they're not so extreme right and they're not so extreme left, those guys they don't get talked about on the media because they're the sane ones. They understand that there's things that we got to prioritize. There's things that we need. There may not be things I need, but it may be somebody else, and everybody should be treated with respect and dignity. I don't believe that you should have homeless people on the streets and then make it illegal for them to use a bathroom somewhere, but then make it illegal that they're going to shit or piss in an alley as well.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's things that you can do. I don't agree with legalizing heroin and letting people just shoot up anywhere because now it becomes a safety hazard. You
Yeah,
know,
that's
I don't
that's what
believe you should fill up the jails either. You know, but to just say it's not illegal, you know,
yeah, like decriminalize it. You know, my best friend lives in downtown LA, spent $1.3 million on a condo. He works his ass off, you know, and then like outside, just a million heroin addicts throwing piss at him and shit. And like, you know, they give the clean needle program. Okay, that makes sense in some ways, like communicable diseases and everything. But they also decriminalize drugs. So people from all over the country go to LA where it's 65 to 80 sunny every day. And here's the free needles, but there's no rehab. There's no like the next step. So now they're just hundreds and hundreds of heroin addicts everywhere, you know, and like then they pass a law that like you're not allowed to like knock down their dwelling without a court case that they won't show up to. And it's like, that's fucking stupid, you know, like kill them all and blah, blah, blah. Like that's stupid too. Like you can't, you know, or throw them all in jail. Well, there's drugs in jail for one thing. So they're not going to get off drugs. And then they're going to have a worse situation when they get out. And then they'll just like, there's always like, it's extremes, but no one ever like takes the second or third step to things. You know, it's like, yeah.
Well, there's no money in it, man. And that's,
Right.
that's where it comes down to. And I don't care what anybody says, you know, I seen a stat, you know, I did a lot of research on homeless veterans and I would assume, as I've learned from podcasting, you know, trauma and mental health is a human problem. It's not a veteran problem. It's not a, you know, police problem. It's a human problem. Trauma affects humans. And I never thought about that till I had some foreign military guys on my show. And they are having an issue with soldiers killing themselves over in Britain. And I never thought about that. And then it made me take it a little bit deeper and start thinking about, well, what about, you know, the guys that we were fighting against, the ones we called the enemy. And, you know, are they killing themselves now too over trauma, or is it different for them? It makes me wonder, you know?
They probably are, you know, that's some rough shit.
Yeah.
You know,
And
American military's some tough, scary dudes. They invade your village and kill all your friends. Like you're fucked from that for sure.
yep. No, absolutely. You know, and so when you start talking about the homeless people, they became homeless for something happened, you know, and I promise you there's some mental health issues in all of them. You know, I think the stat was actually like 80%, you know, has some form of a mental health issue. But, you know, you can't be on the streets that long, live that way, and not be affected somehow. So
Yeah.
maybe you didn't become homeless with a mental health issue, but it created one.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
You know?
drugs and, you know, drugs are, you know, drug addiction is usually like trying to compensate for a mental health, or if not, it will cause one, you know, and then you have, like they shut down all the mental health institutions and healthcare is hard to get and it's all regulated for shitty reasons. And then, you know, it's like, what do? You know, prisons are privatized in most places now, and like they want to keep a maximum occupancy because they're also a labor force, and so they don't want people to get rehabbed or go back out and not reoffend. So like that's a whole underground system of just terrible shit. And then, yeah, these military guys, you know, you're going about your day with your girlfriend, going to the movies and stuff, and then 3 weeks later, you're like face to face with the enemy, and fucking your friends are getting blown up, and you're getting shot, and you got to kill somebody, which you never thought you'd do before, and then you get dropped back off, and it's like, all right, go to the fucking football game with your brother tomorrow, and fucking get back to regular life. It's like they
Yep.
fucking expect people to deal with that shit, you know.
Yep.
And like we're men, like we're stubborn, and we don't want to admit that like we have mental health issues. Like you break your arm, you're going to the doctor, like no question asked, right? But if you're sad or depressed or having, you know, PTSD, like you want to go admit it and like feel like you're weak or whatever. But
Yep.
you know, everybody goes through the shit.
I always said, you know, we don't get help until we break the shovel. You know, you just keep digging until you finally break your shovel and you can't dig anymore. And
Good way to put it.
I always said, you know, that was the problem with soldiers, because we would never admit that we failed and we'd never admit that there's problems. And so when you watching this guy go downhill and you're like, okay, finally, have you hit rock bottom? Are you ready to get some help? You know, 9 times out of 10, they say, hold my beer, bitch. Watch this. And they pick up just the end of the shovel and start digging, but they won't give up, you know, and until it's something traumatic. And I think that's kind of where some of the suicide comes from. And, you know, they just keep digging so far, and it's tough. You know, it really is.
Yeah, it's a rough situation. You know, I think like, you know, people support the military, but they don't support the military members. They don't support the soldiers. You know, it's like cool to wave the flag, but like, you know, you don't want to. What are you doing to help the homeless, or what are you doing to help these people, or the wives and the kids of people that pass? You know, like,
Yep.
you know, it's cool to say it on Facebook and everything, and like then people that are anti-military, like, you're anti this guy that thought he was doing the right thing to protect your freedom, whether he was right or wrong. Like, that's not what the case is. It's a human, it's an American that wants to protect you, and like maybe he went over there for some political reason that had nothing to do with them, but like, how you gonna spit on them or say fuck them or whatever? Like, you know, if you were in their situation, you would have went too. Like, whatever, if they needed the education or they didn't have any other option, or they were, you know, had this patriotic streak in them, like, put in their shoes, you're doing the same thing. Like, so,
Yep.
you know, it's
Yeah.
not done enough where people are, you know, we look through our own lens and our own eyes, but, you know, growing up in east side of Cleveland is much different than somebody grew up in Orange County or Texas or North
Yep.
Dakota, and experiences are different, influences are different. It's like,
Hey man, preach it. Yeah. I said the same thing, you know. Everybody's trauma is different. You know, somebody that grew up in Beverly Hills and had a maid and everything else, and for some reason joined the military, maybe trauma to them could be the fact that, you know, one mortar round landed 2 miles away and they heard the boom. You know, another guy that grew up in Compton that hears bullets every year, it may take more for it to be a trauma that's affecting him. You know, you don't know people's past.
Yep.
And so to judge somebody just because they're having trauma because it didn't affect you is insane.
Yeah, it's all these extra, you know, sources of information. They get us to fight over different things and separate us. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's all bullshit at the end of the day. Like, everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to be healthy and their family to be healthy, and, you know, have some peace and quiet and a decent place to live and some good food to eat and some cool things to do when you're not working. Like, everybody wants that, you know. It's like,
Yep.
put
And
people against each other and bullshit, and what happens.
and reap the rewards from your hard ass work watching Ultimate Fighter, man. You
Yeah.
know, that's what we want.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate everybody that's ever watched any of the stuff that I've done and supported it and support these fighters. You know, you see where they're at, but you don't see where they've been a lot of the time. And it's a story I like to tell. You know, people, hey, got rich or get, you know, overnight, like Conor McGregor, but people like that. Like, you didn't see his 17 amateur fights, and how he lived in the projects in Ireland and single mom, and his life was pure hell growing up. Or, you know, a lot of these guys go through, you know, a ton, and you don't see like that. You don't see the hours in the gym, or these guys that had to sleep in their car for a year, you know, outside their gym, or that they're homeless, and, you know, they don't, you know, you see them win a big title, and, you know, same with like the NBA guys. Like, these guys are bitching, they get paid all this money, like they should just shut up. Like, you don't know how much hard work it took to get all that money, you know. Like,
Yep.
they're not, you know, whatever you agree with them or not, like, people are going to speak up for what they believe in and what they think is right, and, you know, it's on both sides, you know. Like,
Those were the days, man, where we could have disagreements and talk about it, and even if we didn't come to terms, agree that we disagree, and then go have a beer together.
Yeah.
You know, those days have kind of been put on hold for a minute. And
I try to do both. You know, I try to make sure I piss liberals and conservatives off equally. And as long as they're both pissed at me, like, I'm pretty sure like I'm doing the right thing. You know, it's like,
yep.
Like Rogan, he always has a line. It's like, I just want to go to my gay best friend's wedding, smoking a joint with a gun on my hip. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's about sums it up. If you're not gay, don't worry about gay people. If you don't like guns, don't worry about people with guns. You don't smoke weed, don't worry about the people that do. Like,
yep.
You know, you got a problem with trans people, you've never met a trans person. You got a problem with black people, you never met a black people. You got a problem with white people, you don't know any white people. You got a problem with Jewish people, when's the last time you went to dinner with a Jewish person? Like, how do you hate or all this until you've met somebody? And, you know, and I've been blessed. I grew up in Cleveland where there's white and black people, mostly poor. That's it. You know, I didn't know anybody, you know, and then I got moving around and met Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Asians, gay, straight, you know, Muslim, Catholic, Christian, you know, and you start meeting people, you realize really quickly that all those little labels don't really mean that much, you know?
No.
You know?
And you realize that in the military too. You know, at the end of the day, maybe you came in having a certain feeling, but when everybody has live rounds and the bullets are flying, I promise you, all you care about is he squeezing the trigger?
Yeah.
You know, is he helping That's all you care about. You don't
That's
care.
Joe. He's gay. I'm not going to let him save my life. Yeah, fuck that. You're letting Joe save your life, and you guys are going to be best friends afterwards, whether you like it or not. Like,
Yep.
it's
Absolutely.
it's rough. I think people need to just like think and experience more. And people say America's the best country in the world. It might be, but if you've never been anywhere else, like if you only ever ate hot dogs, you say my favorite food's a hot dog. Well, you never had a fillet before, so how would you know? It's like we could take pieces from the other countries and make America better. I think like it is the best in my opinion, but it could improve, or there needs to be work done to maintain it. But if you just say we're the best, fuck it, that's all, and it ends there, then you're not maintaining, you're not getting better, you're not progressing. Yep. And I think that's where we're at now with infrastructure. And if we're the best, we shouldn't have so many homeless veterans. If we're the best, we shouldn't have so many homeless people and so many drug addicts or so many kids that can't read. Kids, like we're not the best as long as like that shit's happening still. And if we are, we still could be better. Like,
it's funny, man, because I do, for the most part, I hear that same type of mentality from the podcasting community. Most podcasters can all agree that they just want to leave things a little bit better than how they found it, and there may be a few out there that I haven't seen or whatever, that's, out there for the shock and the awe to get views or whatever. But for the most part, I had a guy come on my show. He has his podcast is his business. It's an LLC. And he started a second podcast called Read Me a Story, Daddy. And all he does is read children's books. So kids that don't have anybody, whether, two parents are working in their home or single parent home or whatever their case is, to have somebody to read a story to them, and he has other podcasters come on and send in recordings. I'm currently going to do Where the Red Fern Grows and send it to him. There's no publicity. You don't get your name anywhere. I won't even have my logo or anything in the back, because I don't think it's appropriate to have a bunch of alcohol as I'm reading Where the Red Fern Grows to some 10-year-old, but it's not about that. I just thought that was an amazing cause.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would love to support that. Like that's kind of stuff that, sometimes like people don't want to publicize stuff like that because they're humble and everything. But then it sucks because like if more people saw that, they would participate and maybe think, oh, maybe I'll do that, or maybe I could help in some way. So it's like you don't want to put it out there yourself because you feel like then you're doing it only for that in a way. But like, the shitty stuff's right in our face every day, like,
yep.
Somebody from whatever, whenever like a tragedy happens, half the people are like, I hope he was black. Other half are like, I hope he was white. I hope it was a Muslim dude that did that. Oh, I hope, it's like, hope it was somebody from the other side. So you could like point the finger and like all that stuff. It's like, maybe we should hope people that are doing good are from that side and our side, and like put that out there more than just negative bullshit that we all have to watch every day. And, it's rough,
I've always said too, getting involved in a cause, I don't care what that cause is, even if it's not something that I think is a cause, as long as you're passionate about it, you will find how contagious that becomes. It will become an addiction, and you will forget about the money and what it costs, and I think if everybody just picks something that they were passionate about to help out, man, it would make a huge difference, because somebody on the other end of that is going to get the benefits from that.
Yeah.
And it's going to become contagious, and they're going to want to help with something. They're going to want to pay it back because they're going to feel like they owe something, for the most part. I'm not saying 100%, but it will be a lot more.
Yeah. They have people that like at Starbucks will like pay for the guy behind them. And I was watching an interview with a lady, and she's like, someone did that one day and every single person for the whole day paid for the guy behind them. Like, it just shows a little thing. They all had their own money. They're all going to buy it anyway. It didn't really help anybody, but it was just like, it showed like, if somebody helps me, like I'm definitely more likely to help somebody else, and they're more likely. And, much rather than someone punches me in the face and then I'm angry and I'm more likely to go punch someone in the face. And that leads to that, it's like, I don't need a lot of financial help. I've been blessed and I work hard and everything, but like I need help all the time. Like people, I've had a bad day, or You know, somebody could help me help somebody else, or I need I need a pat on the back even when I don't need it sometimes, or a pick me up, or someone called to check on me that I haven't talked to in a while. Like, could change the whole course of your day, and that gives you like more energy and positive vibes to like go help the next person and shit. Like, it's people need to just be cooler to each other. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter. We're all in this shit together. Like,
I always tell everybody, I said, man, you've got to start your day as hyped and happy as you can. I said, so by the end of the day, you're only pissed off, not suicidal.
Yeah, it's true. And like, don't look for it. People look for reasons to be mad all day. Like, go to a Facebook page they know is going to piss them off. I used to do it. Like, I used to go to like ultra conservative pages and then ultra liberal pages and like argue, when Facebook first came out. I'd just be pissed at the end of the day. It didn't change anybody's minds.
Nope.
And in my mind, I was like, as long as I'm pissing both people off, I'm in the middle. So like, it makes me a good person. Like, but it's like, no, just like fucking looking for reasons to be mad. Like, let those people stay in their lane and like help, people that need it. It's like,
yeah, I know people that, somebody cuts them off on their way to work. They're in a bad mood the whole damn day from a 2-minute event. Yeah.
People get shot for that shit. They'll chase them down and like lose their life because the guy just didn't see him and like cut off over a little too quick. It's like,
yeah. Today's not the world. Today is the day you put your finger down, because in today's world, you're liable to get killed. Yep.
Yeah. Like, who knows? It's like not that serious. Like, you sweat that shit your whole life, it's gonna be years off your life, and not only will you live less, but like those days that you had here will be not as enjoyable. Like, get over it. Like no harm, no foul. We've all been there. Like, I'll say this right now, on the way to go eat, someone does it, I'll be pissed off too. But it's like the old me would have tried to fight them and be mad all day. And like, growth, like, all right, well, that guy's on his phone. I've cut people off on my phone before, just the same. Like, deal with it. But I think, it's be cooler to people. It's like, it's not some huge like formula. There's not like some crazy shit we need to do to make the world better. It's just like, be less of an asshole. Everybody cut it down by 10% tomorrow. How much of a dick they are sometimes. Like, shit. He said it's contagious. You help somebody, go hand a burger to a homeless guy tomorrow, and that feeling you get when he smiles and takes a bite of that shit, that will be better than anything that you felt that day, probably.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, man. I always tell everybody, because you always hear the people say, well, I don't give any money to the homeless guys. And I was in El Paso. I was in the military, and there was a homeless guy, and he had the same sign as all of them, homeless, veteran, need help, God bless, yada, 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 yada. And I'm watching this guy. We're at a red light, and I'm looking at this guy, and he takes this deep breath and kind of sighs, and he flips his sign over and he says, all right, why lie? I just need a beer. And I was like, here you go, buddy. You made me laugh today. Yep. You're going to get your beer.
Yeah. And like, people always tell me a story about like, I saw this one guy getting a BMW one time, and he was panhandling all day. I'm not giving money to anybody. Like, okay, well, that's stupid. One guy, one time, like,
that was probably a Facebook post that somebody has set up. And, I mean, no different than the kid that went to school and was fighting with the school because he needs a litter box. I mean, that's all a hoax. It's not, none of that shit's true.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, all trans people should not be able to use the bathroom because one kid identifies as a cat. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you do believe the bathroom thing, but that's why. Like, not just because of some story of a kid. Now we're just going to let our kids pretend they're cats now. Like, that's what happens when you like gay people talk on the news. It's like, what? Where do you, or like, one asshole shoots somebody, and like, now it's like, like the shoe bomb guy. Like, one guy tries to have a shoe bomb. Now, a trillion people have to be inconvenienced every time we go to the airport. It's like, let's not be so reactionary. It's like, let's arm all the teachers. Like, okay, I had some real dumb teachers that should not have a gun, period. That's not going to help having fucking Gladys like this and fucking trying to shoot some kid, but let's like, why did that kid do that? Mental health every time. Like, why aren't kids getting any mental health help at all in schools? Let's start there. It's not,
that would cost money.
Yeah.
But it would cost a whole lot less than the aftermath.
Yeah. How much do those lawsuits cost for parents of 10 kids that get murdered and, all that stuff, and like the school and it's like, and the money's there.
It is.
the money for education's like increases it so much and it just gets thrown the fuck out or mismanaged. It's like,
The
teachers don't make
lottery,
shit.
the lotteries are billions of dollars now, not millions anymore.
Yeah.
They're billions of dollars now. And that whole program was said that money's going to go to schools. That's how we're going to fund our schools. And that turned out to be bullshit.
Yeah.
They don't get all of that money. It goes to all sorts of other programs.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
So
teachers don't get money. Nobody's getting it. The kids don't get it. The teachers don't. It goes to some like park that some congressman wanted to put in their name, and their brother's the one that built it, so they paid 10 times more than they should have. Like, great, awesome.
Yep. Then they split it.
Yeah. It's the worst is when both sides agree on something. If you got the Republicans and the Democrats that all pass some bill like really quickly, you're like, we're getting fucked like real bad on that one somehow.
I don't know where the dick's coming from, but there's a corner around somewhere.
Yeah. It's like you're coming from both sides, getting both ears.
Absolutely, man. Well, I got one more question for you, man, before we end this. If one of my listeners was interested in pursuing a career similar to yours, where do they start? What would they need to do?
Get their iPhone out, start filming the shit in their life that's interesting. Watch their favorite show and see how it's structured. See when the interviews come in, see when the B-roll is like the shot of the outside of the building or the sunset or the cars going by that sets the scene. See what the scenes are like and just start making your own shit, because anymore, like, TV shows are going away very quickly. The advertising's gone. YouTube and all these other, they call them OTT platforms like Hulu and Tubi are coming up. And, if you want to do something, start doing it. Don't wait. Don't try to get into college and wait years, or I'm not old enough, or I don't have enough money. If you have a phone that has a camera on it, you can make a TV show right now. And, get creative, study, watch the ones you like, write it down. At 2 minutes in, they do this, 4 minutes in, they do that, see how that works. And then, if you're in a small town that there's no TV business, it's going to be really hard to get a job on a TV show. But, if you move to LA or New York or Miami or one of these places, just go apply for a production assistant job. And, if you find someone that works there, we're mostly cool and we'll give you advice and, just keep plugging away until you get that first job, and then, work hard. But you could tell stories. It's like I got into podcasting a couple years ago, and it's like it's just podcasting. It's not a big deal, right? And then I got into it, and it's way more important and way more difficult and everything than I thought, because it's like now it's all you. Like you decide what the logo looks like, you decide who you're gonna have on, you decide everything, and there's nobody to like tell you what to do, and there's also nobody to like do it for you. So it's kind of like your own path, and you have a lot of stuff that I haven't seen, like the intro and the green room, and like you're taking it extra steps to make it more like a TV show and like going live, and like that's super cool. And like do that, if you're into it, start making it. If you like sports, do your own talk show. If you like dancing and there's a dance troupe in your town that you like, go start filming them with your phone and figure out how to cut it together. There's so many editing programs now that are free.
Yep.
My whole thing's just do it. If you want to do something within reason, obviously, if you want to be an astronaut, you can't just go to the moon tomorrow, but, find an astronaut, start talking to them, or especially with the media, people's got a million stories, and it's usually better than fiction, and if you're interested in car racing and you go to some local car racers and ask if, you could film them on the weekend, they will say yes 99 out of 100 times.
Yep.
Most people are just cool.
Yep, absolutely, man. Isn't that kind of where Street Beats came from? They watched UFC and they said, "Screw it, man, we're gonna make UFC."
Yeah, I work for Jorge Masvidal all the time now, and he started with backyard fighting with Kimbo Slice back in the day, and they had, couldn't afford a gym, or there wasn't one, or they were settling neighborhood beefs or whatever the case may be, and they start their own thing. And I'm not encouraging people to set up fight clubs in their backyard for safety purposes, but if you did it and I was around, I'd probably film it for you, so,
Yep, absolutely, man. I'm not going to lie, any of those videos stop me from scrolling, so they get my attention too. I think it's awesome what people do. And we started a Roku channel. It's part of our nonprofit, and it's for the podcasters that are trying to do it a little bit more serious, and so their show gets put on the Roku channel. We have what we call MMTV, military music television. So all the artists that have music videos that are on our radio station will throw their music videos on there, and people can stream music video after music video, and it's just another way for people to get seen is all it is. And I think it's awesome to see some of this stuff when they say, oh man, I'm going to be on TV, and all of a sudden they start changing things, and they instantly try to improve what they're doing. And awesome. I think it brings the best out of people, man.
Yeah. It's where creativity comes in, and like, if you have unlimited money and people to do everything for you, you don't get that creative. It's like some of the smaller shows I work on with way less budgets or when doing my own thing end up better because, like, okay, we got to figure out how to make this look good. We got to figure out a new angle. Like, we got to, I did this slap fighting league, and like the coolest shot that I've ever done in all of TV came from my buddy that's one of the camera guys. Kid plays hockey, and he got this 360 camera for like $300, and got a producer that's 7 feet tall. He climbed up on his shoulders and put it, up above one of the tables for one of the fights. And it's the coolest shit I've ever seen. Just like, if we had unlimited money and like, we're always thinking that, you see Ultimate Fighter, you think like tons of money, but like what we have to actually work with is not a lot. So we're always like, how can we make something? How can we do something different? And, and that, that slap fighting thing, like I had the idea to make the table that they fight over, like raised from the stage. I had done it with a poker table years ago. And, we can't afford it. So I bought a dog grooming bed off Amazon for $700. And like, that's what we used to make the thing go up and down, and like sat there for days. Yeah. It's trying to figure it out. You think there's like some crazy mechanism under there, and it's like something that they use for fat dogs, like so you can cut their hair. It's like,
absolutely, man.
Yeah. It's
well, why don't you take a second, tell everybody a little bit about your podcast, where they can find you. I've got your website going down here at the bottom, but give anybody your ats and everything else, man.
Awesome. The podcast is called The Tragedy Academy, and the host's name's Jay Hicks. He's former Army, and I was a guest on his podcast 2 years ago or so. We became really good friends, and a little more than a year ago, he asked me to come on as the co-host. And it's a really cool show. We've had people from every walk of life, and normally they've been through some shit, and like they've came out the other end. So it's we've had like the number one falconer in Abu Dhabi down to rappers to wrestlers, athletes, lawyers, doctors, you name it. We've had it, and they all have a unique story, and we just try to highlight that. And, that's the best way to, check my stuff out, tragedyacademy.com, or you could go to my website. And, if you have anything that is creative that you need help or advice with, I'm always down to help. I do album covers. I do websites. Advice is always free, so if you don't have money or it doesn't work out where you hire my company for something, like I'll tell you how I would do it or how you should do it or the best way or the cheapest way. So I'm always available. Hit me up at Gary DeFranco 147 on Instagram or on Tragedy Academy, or come to my website. There's a bunch of ways to contact me there, but if you're cool and you want to be creative and contribute something back to the world in any way, I'm always down to help. That's my spiel.
Awesome, man. Absolutely, brother. Well, if you don't mind, man, I'm going to put you in the green room real quick. Cool. Roll the exit, and I'll be with you in 1 second. All right?
Sounds good.
All right, man. All right, guys, man, I'm going to tell you, that is mind-blowing just to think about being able to be around the events like that. The Ultimate Fighter, I thought that would be an awesome job, and then to learn all the back stuff that's happening. I thought that was cool. I've always been a car guy, so I love, Street Outlaws and all that stuff. So if any of you guys are interested in anything he's doing, you want to learn, man, reach out to him, check out his webpage, go follow him. And I hope y'all enjoy it. Y'all need to have a damn good day. Don't let the day kick your ass, kick the day's ass. All right. So everybody have a good day. We'll see you all next week. Later.